Long before his name was feared across the sea, Sweyn Forkbeard was shaped by the harsh edge of the north. In the cold lands of Denmark, survival was never gentle. The wind cut through timber halls, the sea ruled the horizon, and every child grew up knowing that strength was not a choice, but a necessity. From this world of lead-like winters, restless waters, and warrior customs, Sweyn absorbed the values that would define him. He learned that honor was earned through force, loyalty, and endurance. The land did not forgive weakness, and neither would the future king who rose from it. In that unforgiving environment, Sweyn's character hardened like iron in a forge. The making of a Viking ruler was never quiet, and it was never done in comfort. He would have grown among raiders, farmers, and seafaring men who measured worth by courage and action. Weapon training, feasting, rivalry, and the constant memory of violence all helped shape the warrior he became. A leader in the Viking world needed more than bloodline. He needed presence, judgment, and the ability to inspire fear without losing the loyalty of his own people. Sweyn understood this balance early. He was not merely learning how to fight. He was learning how to command men who expected victory and death in equal measure. As Sweyn matured, ambition began to take shape around him like storm clouds over the sea. Denmark was a land of shifting loyalties, and power had to be seized before it could be protected. Through alliances, pressure, and relentless determination, he rose into the center of political life and claimed the throne of Denmark. That moment changed everything. He was no longer only a warrior in the service of a cause. He was the man around whom a kingdom would gather. Kingship in the Viking Age was never passive. It demanded presence in council, steel in battle, and the ability to rule men who respected only the strong. Sweyn's rule announced that a new force had entered the northern world. With Denmark under his control, Sweyn's ambitions reached beyond the shores of his homeland. The Viking world was built on movement, and the sea was both road and weapon. Longships cut through black water, their oars rising and falling in unison as crews pushed into dangerous waters. These expeditions were more than raids. They were demonstrations of power, tests of endurance, and messages carried on salt wind. Sweyn used the sea as earlier rulers had used roads and walls. He understood that to dominate the north, a king had to appear where his enemies felt safest. Along the coastlines of the Danish sphere, his reach grew wider, and the name Sweyn Forkbeard began to travel faster than any messenger could ride. But Sweyn's rise was not complete until he looked across the sea toward England, a kingdom rich in wealth and vulnerable to pressure. For a Viking ruler, England was both opportunity and challenge, a land of churches, towns, and power struggles that could be exploited by a determined invader. Sweyn's campaigns were not sudden bursts of violence alone. They were carefully sustained acts of military pressure. Fleet after fleet crossed the waters, bringing warriors, supplies, and the relentless certainty that the King of Denmark would not be ignored. Each landing increased the fear of his enemies and the confidence of his followers. The English coast, once distant and secure, now felt the weight of a northern king who had learned how to turn the sea into an instrument of conquest. As his influence expanded, Sweyn became more than a conqueror. He became a symbol of disciplined power to his own people. A Viking king had to offer both fear and protection, and Sweyn understood that balance with remarkable clarity. To those who resisted him, he was relentless. To those who followed him, he was the kind of ruler who could secure order in a violent age. The great halls and encampments that served his war machine were filled with the sound of preparation, not panic. Weapons were sharpened, ships were repaired, and warriors looked to him for direction. In a world where leadership could disappear with a single defeat, Sweyn built the image of a man who could not easily be broken, and that image itself became a source of power. Yet even the greatest northern rulers were bound by time. Sweyn's life ended as all lives did, but death did not erase what he had built. By then, he had already altered the balance of power across the Viking world and beyond it. His campaigns, his kingship, and his relentless will left a structure that others could inherit and expand. He had proven that a Danish ruler could command more than loyalty at home. He could project power across seas and into the heart of rival kingdoms. The world he left behind was more unstable, more connected, and more afraid of northern ambition. His descendants and successors would stand in the shadow of the path he had cut through history with steel, persistence, and a king's ruthless vision. Sweyn Forkbeard is remembered not because he ruled in peace, but because he mastered the brutal logic of his age. He rose from the hard lands of the north, shaped himself into a warrior, seized a crown, crossed dangerous seas, and forced kingdoms to reckon with his will. That is what makes him unforgettable. He was not simply a Viking raider, nor only a king on a throne. He was a leader who understood that in an era of uncertainty, power had to be visible, terrifying, and absolute. His name endures because it carried the weight of conquest and the promise of transformation. In the story of the Vikings, Sweyn stands as a reminder that history remembers those who dare to reshape the world around them.